Okay, Dad. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself? You're well rested, I hope.
Oh, yeah. It was good being a week off, but not well rested, okay, because I get carried away. Let's make up for the year I wish I had off. Yes, what? Yes, anyway. I'll tell you, boy, there's a lot going on, especially with Iran.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the shooting down of the drone. And I just want to throw out here, you know me, I'm always one of these guys that you should have went right and I'll turn left, or I'll hit my brakes and not go across the bridge, and I should have went across the bridge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here it is. The Democrats, all right, when they won, the House, they put, Maxine Waters, who had some, what would you call it, close encounters with banking and stuff like that got her in trouble.
Yeah.
So they put her in head of the Finance Committee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they put one of the two newly elected Muslim ladies in the Intelligence Committee. And I was telling some people over the weekend, I said, who knows? Maybe they said, hey, guess what? We're sending a drone over to you. Could that be far-fetched in today's world?
Well, one thing that's not far-fetched is the U.S. did lose a drone last week over international waters, but we also are getting intel now that it perhaps they were just on the other side of that, so they may have actually been in Iranian airspace, because where the incident took place is at the narrowest part of the Straits of Hormuz. So it's a really, you really have to thread the needle to get in there, especially when you're using these drones. And, I just kind of want to say one thing that, what's interesting about this was a Navy drone. It's like the size of a 737. That's the wingspan. So we're talking a really big plane here. Drone UAV, actually, it took off from UAE, which, UAE now is upset that we're flying surveillance drones from their country. But we don't know the value of the plane or the drone here. And this is interesting. You're hearing anywhere from $120 million to $200 million. And you don't know that because this was a brand new drone. It wasn't supposed to be in the Middle East. It was supposed to head over to Guam in August. So it wasn't supposed to be where it was. So we really don't know the capability here. And it just brought back a lot of memories of when we lost that chopper at the Osama bin Laden raid in Pakistan, and we weren't able to blow up in its entirety. And then the Pakis went on to sell the stuff to the Chinese. Now, Iran has recovered this drone in Iranian waters, so we don't have anything much to do about it. And I'll just show if you're watching, here's a picture of the drone. This is actually the drone that went down. So it's a big aircraft that can fly super high, but it had to get up close and better surveillance. It does have to drop down. Only flies 300 miles an hour or so. So it's a very easy target if it's flying too low.
And Trump really points out, they're very lucky there were no humans on that drone, because then we would have a whole new scenario, I guess.
Yeah, and again, you have to just, ask why, was the president, he's obviously, very strong materialistically, that he really wants the military to use their equipment and such. But at the last minute for him to pull back, I'm giving him a lot of praise, and a lot of people are giving him a lot of praise for having this restraint. But there are several people that think that it's a sign of weakness not to bomb them. But one thing's certain, if we were to strike Iran, the entire region would be embroiled in a complete regional war. And the Obama wars of Syria and Libya and the right war, as he called it, in Afghanistan, would all be called the Trump wars. So for him to stop, take a rest, look at the situation and say, look, we can look at this through a different lens. And then once the intel starts coming in, and I presume CENTCOM and the president and the Situation Room, they've seen all the evidence. And clearly the president saw something that may have, come back to the United States or whoever's operating these drones in the military and said, you know what, guys, we're going to let this one go.
Yeah, absolutely the right thing to do if you are the president of the United States of America.
Yep.
All right, we're going to be right back with Kimberly Dvorak. Don't go away. And it's, let me see if I can find this real quick. It is bkdreport.com. She's streaming live. Facebook, periscope.com. For the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy and doing this report. And by the way, you can get it later. It's edited and it's real nice and all that good stuff on
YouTube.
Facebook.
On YouTube.
Dvorak, Dvorak. I'm sorry?
And YouTube as well.
Oh, yes. And YouTube. Oh, yes. Yes. You're everywhere. Absolutely. Hey, listen, it's interesting when the president was speaking today. Earlier on Fox News, I saw a thing, and I just saw part of it. And this was before he signed his executive order, which he did mention later in the report on the executive order.
Mm-hmm.
But he was talking about all of these ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And bringing oil and things like that. And I think he said 92% of the oil that goes to China goes through that strait. And it was like 70%, or I'm not sure, going to Japan and other countries.
Yeah.
And he said, look, it's not the United States' job to take care of China and Japan. You guys need to step up on this. Did you happen to see that report?
Yeah, actually, and the president's, and he's 100% correct on this. As we're an energy independent nation now, due to fracking and the use of natural gas, this country is a net exporter. So we're not getting very much oil from the Middle East. And so an escalation in the Straits of Hormuz is not necessarily going to be in the American people's interest. And that's what the president said. We'll go to fight people, but it's got to be in our interest, which, backs us up. Last week, you were on vacation and the rest of us were busy chit-chatting about the oil tankers that were hit last week. No deaths. The last one was, you saw a boat going out and it was fuzzy footage, so you have no idea who was actually going out there, but they pick up a limpet mine, which, can you imagine? You're from the military. If you went out and you saw a grenade and it didn't have the pin in it, would you just go pick that up and willy-nilly walk that around back to your buddies on the base? It's crazy. Whoever took that off of that ship knew that it wasn't, or had detonated and did nothing, or it wasn't going to detonate in any event, and it was going to be used for some sort of evidence. Now, they're using that as one of the bases for the United States going in and striking Iran. This is the excuse that John Bolton and Pompeo from the State Department are using. They are trying everything they can to say that this country is in our interest to go after Iran, when in all actuality it is not, because right now the Iranian people are still protesting on the streets. Millions of people out there. We strike Iran, and guess what? All of them unite, and now their common enemy is the United States. The president made the right move. The evidence of what the mainstream media is pushing out there is dubious at best. We won't get any serious details about this for months, if ever. And you have to wonder, why would we do something like this? And you always have to follow the money on this. Who stands to gain on some of this stuff? And you have to believe that's gonna be the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Israel. They still want the United States to have bases and operate and continue to bail them out of trouble whenever they get themselves into it.
I found it interesting that as soon as the explosions happen on the oil tankers, Trump says, yep, I think they hit a mine. Okay, and I'm thinking, okay. And remember when he said, I think they bugged my office. Oh, you're totally insane, guy. So once again, he was right.
Yeah.
I've got this little thing. I'm a very suspicious type person, on a lot of things. It surprises me that none of those ships apparently hit the mines head on.
Yeah.
And if they had, they would have sunk.
Exactly.
And then I said, did they do this on purpose? Is there some, I'm a very suspicious person. I'm already blaming some lady in the Democratic Intelligence Committee calling her friend over there and saying, hey, the drone's on its way. Why don't you shoot it down,
Yeah,
There's no humans in it.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that one. I know that, that Congress does a lot. But I think on this point, this is a bigger chess game that they're playing here. And when you talk to, you talk to people off the record, and even more people are starting to talk about, people from the Pentagon, they're starting to open up about a little bit of what happened and what preceded this and why we were doing this. And it really comes down to, there was one of two scenarios that happened. I mean, it's the U.S. sent up a drone. They wanted to see what Iran was up to, if they were back to enriching the nuclear, stuff that they've got there. They aren't doing that because that takes place below, ground. But, they wanted to see what they're doing, if they were going to, have some sort of, hiding, weaponry away from the satellite drones that are flying constantly above Iran. If that was the case, then they got a little too close to that line and it went down. The others saying that, Iran did this just to tell America that, look, we can shoot down your drones. By the way, they shot down the drone without the latest technology out there for the missiles. This is 2 or 3 generations behind missiles, and they're using the Russian ballistic missiles, heat-seeking missiles, to hit that drone. So clearly we found out a couple of things, that our drones are actually really vulnerable, and that if an old generation missile can go up and hit and take down a drone that's worth anywhere from $1 to $200 million, then, they made quite a statement there. But, for the hawks out there, yeah.
A lot of postings on Facebook, especially. Where do you think they got the money to buy those super missile? Of course, talking about Obama and the Palestinians and over there. A moment ago, you mentioned, the Iranian citizens. When Trump asked for the kill probability, and they came up with a figure of 150, I'm assuming, Kimberly, I'm going to ask you, that would be probably military targets, and it was 150 military people, but there's always civilian casualties too sometimes.
Yeah.
Was that 150 probably just military sites?
Most likely, but in the event of any of this, usually the military is not even going to tell the commander-in-chief that it's 200 people, 150 people, 5,000 people, because you just don't know. And typically from my military analysts I've talked to, they said that they thought it was kind of a far-fetched number because they have never heard of the military giving the commander-in-chief a number of how many people would die if we were to strike them. And if you were to strike them near their nuclear plants, which is where the people like Pompeo and Bolton would like the U.S. to do, you're talking about a lot more than 150 people. I mean, those day and night those things are operational with thousands of people. And then if you hit the nuclear thing, you risk having a nuclear mess on aisle 9, so to speak, over at the grocery store, and now you're going to have a lot of people that get sick and end up dying from the aftermath of something like that. So there's a big question here, and I would say it's probably 50 this, 50 that. Equal sides here that say the president he did not say that he was unable to stop the attack. He didn't stop the attack minutes from the strike. And then there are others saying that, well, by the time they're getting ready to get their missiles up in the air, the president did come down and order a stand down, so to speak. So, I mean, we really don't even know. Yeah,
somebody reports that, in 10 minutes, 10 minutes before the attack.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, those are unreliable. But you know what? I got to correct you. Guess what? There is a well-known instance where a commander was given the death estimate, and he decided, okay, then I'm going to drop the atomic bomb. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. You're talking Hiroshima. Yeah, the Japanese. That was bombing the entire cities. I mean, and I think that it's a little different when you're doing something of that nature. I mean, they'd hit the United States. They had, killed, 3,000 Americans on U.S. soil. I mean, it's a completely different situation what happened here.
Well, in fact, the quote they were given was how many American and Allied soldiers were going to be killed.
Yeah.
See, that was the main reason, because we were going to lose 1 million or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, but I also think that President Trump is he's out. He likes to say, this was my decision. This is what I based my decision on. And he wants to be decisive, especially militarily. And it looks good for him to say, look, yeah, hey, we were going to do this, but I said, no, we're not going to do that, which I'm sure he did. But for him, let's add a few extra, details in there that may not necessarily, be true or not, but there's no way to prove it one way or the other. He made the right decision in the end. It doesn't mean that the people who are trying to get more false flags in that region won't draw America into war with Iran. It's just hopeful that the president is actually starting to listen to other people besides his national security advisor, Bolton, and Department of Secretary there, for Mike Pompeo. Their ways of going about this go against the American people. 80% of the American people, 80%, do not want to go to war with Iran. Period. That's such a landslide. We shouldn't even be talking about this.
What about say something on the sanctions? All right. There's that old saying, money talks. The Treasury Department released a news item, and quote, after these sanctions, any foreign financial institution that knowingly facilitates a significant financial transaction for entities designed under this executive order will be cut off from the U.S. financial system.
Yeah.
That's pretty drastic because money does talk.
It does. And then this kind of dovetails into what the younger generation in Iran is doing. And they're currently, they're protesting. They continue to protest every weekend, and they're getting millions of people out. Nobody's filming this. None of the main networks are over there. And, we're not seeing any coverage. I covered it for, not the last probably 6 or 7 months, but before that, you and I talked about this for, a year and a half. I mean, the sanctions are working. The Obama giving back the money to Iran, that didn't help because that just funded more terrorism activities with Iran. And you better believe the Iranians actually know, the Ayatollah knows that he sees those people out there on the streets and he knows his time is coming. So you have to think that cooler heads prevailed in this situation, and America actually did the right thing here. And getting more sanctions and taking more of their money, freezing more of their money, that's the right thing to do, because they're going to run out of money, and then they're going to have to decide if they're going to feed their people, or if they're going to pay their people, or if they're going to continue to fund terror in the Middle East and beyond.
Well, I tell you, and you talk about Bolton and people and when they speak up. Lindsey Graham, all right, Republican, South Carolina, made his little quote here that Iran will indeed take this as a sign of weakness, not to strike back. And I'll tell you, I've got another guest coming up later, and we're going to be talking about Lindsey Graham because now he's got together with some Democrats. I don't have his name in front of me right now, but talking about another great amnesty. Sometimes you can't trust these rhinos. And Lindsey Graham, every once in a while he does something like, he's a good old guy, and all of a sudden, they're not happy unless they're stirring the hornet's nest.
Yeah, well, they do this over here. They want everybody to watch over here. This is where all the action is right now. And meanwhile, over here, this is what you need to be focusing on, but you're not. The media falls for Trump stuff every single day. They still fall for it. But that, I think, is, you're referencing the border and the immigration situation, which is just as catastrophic, and something that I wish the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of State would actually start focusing on our national security here at home and worry less about what's going on in the Middle East, because we really don't have much to do over there, and it's really not our fight.
Well, on the immigration, which we're going to touch on just a little bit, the senator's name is Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois. They've been together before, Gang of Eight and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very proud of President Trump because I like, he seems like a common type guy, even though, he's got more money than both you and I put together, probably.
No, well, speak for yourself. I'm going to put you on speak for yourself.
I just think that compared to a lot of others, he's better for America. What are we going to do? Let's make America great again, or let's keep America great? When he's doing his rallies, they've already got the signs printed up, and he's already decided, to keep America great.
Yeah.
But,
he's doing a good job. And what he did in Iran, it did. He earned a lot of creds from a lot of people that were maybe starting to kind of go, I don't know if this guy's meant to be president. I don't know where we're going to go. I think this showed his resolve. He also knows that, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, that presidents who start wars don't just, they don't necessarily get reelected. And this would be the case for President Trump. He, kind of, went after healthcare up front. That was tough. He shouldn't have done it. He should have went for the wall. But I think that you're going to see after the election that you'll see some changes, and you'll see him really going after that part. But the best thing he can do is get us out of the Middle East, and he's going to have to buck the so-called rhinos in Washington, D.C. on this, because they're all hawks and they want to go to war, and they think it's in Israel's best interest, and we got to protect Saudi Arabia. I mean, I just, most Americans don't even know where either of those countries are on a map, sadly, but he's starting to make the right decisions. And if it's the politics and him going on the campaign trail that's helping him get back there, I will give him, 100% credit for it, because